Today's shir is, why is living in Israel the greatest mitzvah even today? Yehuda's kind enough to pass out the papers. First we're going to start with the Rambam, and then we're going to go to the Ramban, which is later on. But let's take a look what the sources say about the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael even today. Why even today? We'll see, because some people say the temple's destroyed, so maybe the mitzvah is not in effect. That's what some people want to say. But anyway, let's take a look at side number 1. This is the Rambam Hilchas Malachim. All right, you have that. The Rambam puts the laws of living in Israel in the laws of kings. Why does he put the laws of living in Israel in the laws of kings? Why? Why?
Because we're supposed to have a king if we're living in
No. I think because this is God's country, he's the king, and we are his princes, and we're supposed to live in the land of Israel. So look what he says in Halacha Tes. See Halacha Tes? Asur l'tzeis me'eretz Yisrael l'chutz la'aretz la'olam. Here it is. What about those guys who go on vacation to Greece? Halacha Tes. Asur l'tzeit me'eretz Yisrael l'chutz la'aretz la'olam. You have that, Ira? It's asur, it's prohibited to leave Israel, to go to chutz la'aretz forever, but every rule has what? An exception. Ella, what's the exception? Lilmod Torah. You're allowed to go to study Torah, or lisa isha, or to get married, or lahatzla min hagoyim, or to kibbut avayim. There are other exceptions, but the yachzeh la'aretz, even though there are exceptions that you're allowed to go to shmutz la'aretz, but on the condition that you buy a round-trip ticket.
Where does it say kibbut avayim?
The Gemara says that. He doesn't mention, the good thing why he doesn't mention it. Gemara in Kedushin, page 31, says that for kibbut avayim, you're also permitted to what? Go. It's amazing why the Rambam does not mention that, but Gemara in Kedushin 31 says for kibbut avayim, you have to go, but the yachzeh la'aretz, the condition is that you have to buy what? A round-trip ticket. Yiddish Shelley. The yachzeh la'aretz, you have to buy a round-trip ticket.
What's lahatzil min hagoyim?
Lots of minagoyim, in case the attacks here, lo yaleinu, get too harsh. In case the terror attacks get too harsh, you're permitted to leave. That's what it says there. Lahatzil min hagoyim. Evelyn, you have that? Lahatzil min hagoyim. To save yourself from Abu Mamzer, if you feel that you can't take the pressure, you're permitted to leave. But the yachzeh la'aretz on the conditions, Isel, that what? That you what? Return. V'chein yoytze l'schora. You're allowed to leave to go for what does schora mean? Business. You're allowed to go to do business. But the ticket is v'yachzeh la'aretz. Aval lishkoin b'chutz la'aretz asur. But to live in shmutz la'aretz permanently, it's asur. Yes?
Maybe lahatzil min hagoyim means to go out of Eretz Yisrael to save Jews from goyim there.
I think it means to save yourself from the goyim. Or it might mean both. You're right? Lahatzil min hagoyim. You're right, Reb Yaakov. Probably means both.
What's the Kesef Mishnah say?
What? It probably means both. What did the Kesef Mishnah say? On that, lahatzil min hagoyim, he doesn't say, but it means either to save yourself from the goyim or to save others from goyim, right? But the condition is that what? You have to what? Yachzor la'aretz. V'chein hayotze l'schora. Aval lishkoin b'chutz la'aretz asur. But to live there permanently is what? Asur el imkein chazak sham harav. Unless that the hunger is so great over here, unless the inflation is very high, right? So if inflation gets too high here, then you're permitted to leave temporarily. Anyway, look at the top page on the next side. You see the same page on the top, on the left side. Yad Rabbi Yaakov? Even though there are exceptions that you can leave if the inflation is too high or the terror gets too great, so mutter to leave. Eino midas chasidus. Yeah?
Just the dikduk, if it was to save yourself, it would be lehinat.
Okay. So what does lahatzil min hagoyim mean?
Save someone else.
To save others, okay? Lahatzil min hagoyim, not to save yourself, but I'm also Jewish. But I'm also Jewish. But I'm also Jewish. Okay? I accept. Lahatzil min hagoyim, okay? I hear. Thank you, Rivka. Look at the top column on the left. Even though you're allowed to leave temporarily, einoi midas chasidut, to leave ever. What's the proof? Machlon v'chilyon. Remember who Machlon v'chilyon were?
Yeah, those were the sons.
The two sons of who? Of Naomi. Of Naomi and Elimelech. Shnei gedoyle hador hoya. They were the two leaders of the generation, and they left Israel. They went to Moab. Why did they do that? They left because there was a terrible hunger here. So they went to Las Vegas. They went to Moab. And therefore they were destroyed. So I would say, Rivka, they were destroyed for marrying shiksas. But the Rambam says no, not for intermarriage. Machlon v'chilyon married Ruth and what's her name? Orpah. They were shiksas. So I would say that's why they died prematurely. That's what I would say. But Rambam says no. They died prematurely because they left Eretz Israel. Isn't that incredible? That's what the Rambam says here. Not for intermarriage. What's going on? Isn't intermarriage a worse sin than leaving Pisgat Zev? That's what I would say. But the Rambam doesn't agree with me. Doesn't matter. Your parents say be Machal Shabbos. You have to listen.
No.
If your parents say move to Borough Park, you're not allowed to listen either.
They're not allowed to say you can't go to Israel.
Right? Machlon v'chilyon, shnei gedoyle hador, and they left b'nei tzoreh gedola because there was a terrible famine here. Afal pikein v'nischayvu kliya l'makayim. Afal pikein, God what? Took their lives prematurely. And I would say for intermarriage. And the Rambam says no, because they made yerida. They set a bad example. If the gedoyle hador make yerida to Crown Heights, what does it say for the other people? You can't leave Israel. And look at halacha, the next halacha, Yud. You have that, Yehuda? Halacha, you have a paper. Gedoyle chachamim, the greatest rabbis, halacha Yud, on the left side, minashkin al tchumei Eretz Yisrael, uminashkin avoneo. The greatest rabbis, when they came from Babylon, Long Island, they would what? Kiss the stones of Israel, and they would roll in the dust. Right? Right? You hear this, Elisheva? Right? And they brought a klosik in Tilim, kirotzu avadechas avaneo, right? That your servants love not just the land, but even the dust and the stones over here. Right? Halacha Yud Aleph. Look at Halacha Yud Aleph. Omru chachamim. You have Halacha Yud Aleph? Ira. Kol ha-shoychan be'eretz Yisrael avanoisav mechulin. Anyone that lives where? In Israel, all of his sins are what? Forgiven. That's what it says. The Rambam does not engage in hyperbole. How do you say that? Hyperbole. Thank you. The Rambam, every of his words are measured. He says, Kol ha-shoychen be'eretz Yisrael Yehuda. And avanoisav mechulin. Shenemar, there's a pasuk in Yeshayahu. He quotes a pasuk in Yeshayahu, right? Ba'al yoymer shochen chalisi. But anyone that lives here, his sins are nusu. What does nusu mean? Lifted off. Yeshayahu 33. Hayosheba, anyone that lives here, his sins are lifted off. Va'afila holach ba'arba amot. Just walking arba amot in Israel, your sins are zoiche l'chai olam haba. V'chein ha'kovur ba. And even if you're buried here in the schapeloi, the earth of Israel is a kapara, even just to be buried here. Being buried in Eretz Yisrael is like being buried what? Tachas HaMizbeach. Shenemar, there's a pasuk in Deuteronomy 32, V'chiper at Mosai Amoy. The very land of Israel acts as a kapara for what?
The sins.
For the people of Israel. Uprani Yashomer Aladama Temeya Tamus, but Veina Doime Kletosai Mechayim Kletosai Achamaisai. You can't compare coming here standing up than coming here laying on your back. You can't compare. It's also cheaper to come standing up, right? Than coming laying in a box. Ve'enet domeh, Yehuda, you have it? Klitosai mechayim, you can't compare coming here alive, likatosai achamoisai, than coming here after you're dead. Ba'afal pikain, and even though it's much better to live here when you're alive, but if you can't make it here alive, then at least try to make it here after you're dead. Ba'afal pikain, gedoyle chachamim, says Rambam. The end of Halacha Yud Yehuda. Afal pikain, gedoyle chachamim, hoyu malichim meiseyem l'sham. The greatest rabbis who died in Babylon, Long Island, would make sure to what? Have their bodies shipped to where? To Pisgat Zev. Maybe it's not good. Tzeyulamad mi Yaakov Avinu, the Yosef HaTzadik. They died in Shmutz La'aretz, and yet they what? So the Rambam says that even if being buried here is a great schus. It's much better to come here alive, staying alive. But if you can't come here alive, at least try to be buried over here. Yes?
If it's such a smooth to live here, why are there such tragic deaths, terrorist attacks, and traffic accidents?
That's on sheet number 2. We're not there yet, Shoshana. That's sheet number 2, which I didn't give out yet. First, I want to finish with this, okay? So look at Halacha Yud Bet. Halacha Yud Bet. You with me? La'olam yadur adam be'eretz Yisrael afila be'ir sheruba goyim. Yehuda, Halacha Yud Bet. A person should always live in Israel, even in the city is majority goyim. Val yadur b'chutz la'aretz. And he shouldn't live in Shmutz la'aretz afila be'ir sheruba Yisrael, like Borough Park or Monsey. Val yodur b'chutz la'aretz, and don't live in Shmutz la'aretz afilu be'ir sheruba Yisrael. Even Monsey? What about Lakewood? Listen, now the Rambam does not engage in exaggeration. You want to read the next hyperbole, Ivor? You want to read that? I'm afraid to read it. Ivor. You want to read it? Shekol hayoytze l'chutz la'aretz, anyone that leaves Israel for Shmutz la'aretz, Ki'ilu oved avodah zarah, is like an idol worshiper. Say what? Shenemar, there's a pasuk in Shmuel, Ki gushuni hayoim ministapeach manachlas Hashem leima lech avod elohim acherim. When King David was the fugitive, before the fugitive, he was the first fugitive. Saul was hunting for him. You know, a father-in-law sometimes wants to kill his son-in-law. It happens sometimes, right? So David was hunted by his father-in-law. He tried to kill him, and he had to flee Eretz Yisrael, and he had to hide out where? In Moab. So King David says, you drove me out today from God's inheritance, and you told me, Saul, go worship Getchkis. Where did Shaul HaMelech tell David to go worship Getchkis? By having him driven out of Israel. You drove me out from God's inheritance. It's as if, Saul, you told me what? Worship avodah zarah. So look how important it is to what? Live in Israel. So the $64 question is, Chava, how come the Rambam does not count living in Israel as one of the Tayag mitzvot? He says whoever leaves Israel is like worship avodah zarah. He says that living here, your sins are forgiven. So how come the Rambam does not count living in Israel as a mitzvah? Because he Sefer HaMitzvot, he doesn't count it. So everybody jumps on him. So the Tzitz Eliezer and the Chazon Ish says, calm down, take a pill and calm down. The Rambam also does not count Kedoshim Tiyu as a mitzvah. There's a posuk in the Torah, Kedoshim Tiyu, which means what? Be holy. So the Rambam in his Sefer HaMitzvot, his Hakdama says, why don't I count Kedoshim Tiyu as a mitzvah? He says, because that's Koilo Kola Torah Kula. I'm only counting Pratim. A klal like Kedoshim Tiyu is not counted as a mitzvah because it's Koilo Kola Torah Kula. Says the Tzitz Eliezer and the Chazayin Ish, the Rambam told you why he doesn't count Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. He doesn't have to repeat himself. Something that's Koilo Kola Torah Kula, which all mitzvahs are based on, like what? Kedoshim Tiyu and Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, the Rambam doesn't count it. Not because it's less, because it's Koilo Kola Torah Kula. Said the Tzitz Eliezer and the Chazayin Ish. And both of them were Haredi. And they said that's why the Rambam doesn't count it, not because it's less than a mitzvah, it's Koilo Kola Torah Kula. All mitzvahs are based on Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, like all mitzvahs are based on what? On Kedoshim Tiyu. Okay?
What does the Rambam say about Anochi Hashem Elokecha?
I'm going to get a sidetrack. If you look in the Rambam Hilchos Tumas Meis, chapter 11, you don't have it. But if you look in the Rambam Hilchos Tumas Meis, chapter 11, the Rambam says, Hamahalech be'eretz akum tomei shiva. Anybody that walks in what? Borough Park or Williamsburg becomes Toma 7 days. L'chein, says Rambam, Koyen v'nazir asur l'gur b'Borough Park. I mean Chutz La'aretz. The Rambam in Hilchos Tumas Meis, chapter 11, you don't have it on your sheet, but you can look it up, says L'chein Koyen v'nazir asur l'gur b'Chutz La'aretz. Because living in Chutz La'aretz makes a person Tamei Shiva. So therefore, the Rambam says that a Kohen and a Nazir are not permitted to live in Lakewood. You know any Kahanim in Lakewood? So tell them to look in the Rambam Hilchos Tumas Meis, Perig Yud Aleph, where it says, Nechama, that a Kohen can't live in Chutz La'aretz because he becomes what? Tamei. So the question is, why is living in Israel the greatest mitzvah? The question is why? So for the answer, I have other copies. Do you mind, Aaron, just giving one to a customer? One to a customer, okay? One to a customer, just pass it down. So why is living in Israel such a great mitzvah? Madua v'lama. So for that, we're going to sheet number 2. Aaron is kind enough to pass out. The Ramban al Vayikra v'titma Eretz. If you defile the land will vomit you out. You see the top line on side number 2? See that?
That's why we were all in Gullus.
Hichmir hakotu barayot bavo oretz shetitma behen batoki anafoshes oisais. If you commit sexual transgressions over here, the land, Leviticus 18 says the land will what? Spit you out. Why will the land spit you out? Why? Why is that? Why is that? So if you skip down a little bit, because he says, Acholak Hashem Elokecha otam l'chol ha'amim. Israel is different. Why is Israel different? Because all the other nations, says the Ramban, God puts a heavenly minister in charge. He quotes a pasuk in Koheles, Malache Elyon, Notlam liot sarim aleim, Kinyin shekosov. There's a pasuk in Daniel, V'sar malchut paratz, oimat lenegdi. Daniel tells us in chapter 10, Nikki, that even though God created the whole universe, but he apportioned heavenly ministers to be in charge of different countries. And you look in Daniel 10, V'hine sar yovain ba. So each country has a heavenly spiritual angel that's in charge of that country. Daniel 10 tells us that. You know that? Aval Eretz Yisrael. Why is Israel different? Mickey, here it's a local call. Aval Eretz Yisrael Emtsoyes HaYishuv. Israel is the center of the universe. Little Israel, smaller than New Jersey. It's always the New York Times page. Why? Why is smaller than New Jersey? Why is the world obsessed with Israel? What about what's going on in Syria and in the Congo and where? In Liberia? Where? No, Israel, because Israel, Eretz Israel, Emotes HaYishuv. That's the center of the universe. Nachlas Hashem. See that? In Samuel 2, this is God's special inheritance. Miyuchedes l'shmoi. Lo inosan aleo min ha-malachim. Katzin shoter Moshel. Unlike all the other countries of the world, that God put a heavenly angel in charge of that country, Eretz Israel has no heavenly minister in charge of it. God here deals directly with us here. In every other country, God put a heavenly minister in charge, right? It's incredible. Rabbi is telling us from Daniel 10 that all the nations of the world have what? A heavenly minister, a governor that's what? That's in charge. Israel's the only exception that it doesn't have a minister. It's a direct relationship with the Kadesh Baruch Hu. So you skip down to the middle of the page, Vihine. See what it says, Vihine? The middle of the page. Vihine, b'chutz la'aretz. In chutz la'aretz, even where in Williamsburg and Borough Park, afa pi shahakol Hashem anichbad. Even though you're worshiping HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Ein tahara bo shleima. You can't be completely tahor. Bavur ha-mishartim ha-moshlem alel. Even though in Borough Park, in Lakewood, you're davening to Hashem, but you can't have a direct relationship with God because ha-mishartim ha-moshlem alel. What does mishartim mean? They're servants that God put in charge of each country. Va'amim toim achrei soreyem lavod gam otam. And many nations go astray and they worship that heavenly minister. That's called the zodiacs. Oved kachavim. How is idolatry called in the Talmud? Oved kachavim. What does that mean? Worshipping the stars. What do you mean worshipping the stars? So the Rambam tells us in Hilchos Yesod Torah that when you're looking at starry night, Evelyn, you're looking at bodies of angels. The Rambam says in the Barbanel that each star is actually what? A body of a malach. Just like we have physical bodies in order to accomplish our mission, right? Our neshama uses our guf to accomplish our mission. Malachim also have missions in this world. So how do they accomplish it? Through the stars. So the ancient world were not stupid. When they worshiped the stars, who were they actually worshiping? The malachim that animate those stars. But that's idolatry, because they think that these angels, these zodiacs, have independent powers. They're only robots. They work for the boss. But the ancient world thought that these zodiacs, these malachim, these constellations have independent powers, and they began to what? To worship them. And therefore, Ira asked me, how does the Rambam know that anyone who lives outside of Israel is like he worships idols? If you look at the bottom of the page, you see that? And he quotes Kol Adar, I have it underlined, Ira, you're not looking in. Kol Adar b'chutz la'aretz kimi she'ein lo lahai. The Gemara in Ksubah says anyone that lives in Chutz La'aretz is like he has no God. Shenema losais lachem es Eretz Canaan, the bottom of page 2. Lios lachem le'lohim. And this is what King David says, Ki gushuni hayom, he drove me out today, mistapeach benachlas Hashem leimor lech avod elohim acherim. So he's quoting Gemara in Ksubah. Since Chutz La'aretz is controlled by what? Heavenly ministers, angels. So even though you're worshiping HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Chutz La'aretz, it looks like you're worshiping those angels, even though you're not. It's domeh to Avodah Zarah, even though you're davening to Hashem in Williamsburg. But there's a malach in charge of Williamsburg, Virginia, where I grew up in Williamsburg, not Virginia, right? So each country, each city has a heavenly messenger that God put in charge. So the Ramban is saying that even though you're worshiping HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it looks like you're worshiping that angel, even though you're not, because each country has a malach that's what? in charge of that country. So in Chutz La'aretz, it says Nachmanides, you cannot, Ira, have a direct relationship with God. You cannot. Because there's an intermediary there, even though he's a robot. The nations of the world thought that he's an independent being. That's classic Avodah Zarah. Even though you don't believe that. You believe he's a robot. But the fact is that robot that God put in charge, so you cannot have a direct relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, only where in Eretz Yisrael. If you turn over to side number 3, well, let's go through the sources, then we'll talk. You side number 3. And this is what amazing Ramban over here. Look at side number 3. Everybody have a paper? Sonia, side number 3. I made the copies. You shouldn't think I'm off the wall. Side number 3. You see that? V'omer b'tosefta, Avodah Zarah, v'shafti b'sholem beis avi. Side number 3 on top. Side number 3 on top. Right. This is all the Ramban. Side number 3 on top. He quotes the Sefta and Avodah Zarah. You have that? Yaakov Avinu says, "V'shafti b'shalom beis avi." When I return to my father's house in peace, v'haya Hashem li le'elohim. Then Hashem will be me for a God. What's v'haya? Haya ze lashon atid. So what's Yaakov saying? Where's he going? He's going to Ocean Parkway now, right? He's running away from his brother. He's going to Syria, right? So he says, "V'shafti b'shalom beis avi." Only when I come back to my father's house, v'haya lashon atid, then God will be a God for me. And while he's in Syria, he doesn't have a God. V'omer lo sas lachem es Eretz Canaan, kol zman she'atem be'Eretz Canaan. Listen to this. It's quoting the Tosefta. When you live in the land of Israel, Yisi lachem le'elohim, then I'm your God. Ein atem be'Eretz Canaan. But if you're living outside of the land of Israel, even in Lakewood, Ein ani lachem le'elohim, then I am not your God. How did he learn this in Muncie, Chava? I don't know. They skip that. Ein ani lachem le'elohim. You hear this? Wow. Now, look at source number, next one. Umina inyan hazeh. I'm skipping down. Please hold the question. Hold that, Tiger. Hold it. Please write it down. Please write it down. See the second source, Rivka. Side 3, Mina inyan hazeh, says the Ramban. Min inyan hazeh, Ambru b'sifri, Vavalatem mehera, v'samtem es devarai. It's a posuk in Krishma. Even though I exile you from Israel to Chutz La'aretz, continue to distinguish yourself doing mitzvahs in Chutz La'aretz. Why? When you come back to Pisgat Zev, lo aleichem chadashim. It shouldn't appear to you like new. So the Ramban is quoting Sifri. The only reasons that you do mitzvahs where in Lakewood is only a practice. You shouldn't forget how to do them for real. Moshe La'adon. The Sifri brings a master, a king that had a fight with his wife. The king had a fight with his wife. V'sholcha lebeis aviyah. And he sent the queen back to her father's house. V'chazra beis aviyah, and she returned to her father's house. The king and the queen had a lover's quarrel. Amallah. So what did the king tell to his wife? I think it's called an estranged wife. Hava, she's very strange. Hava miskashetes tachshitim. Continue to wear your jewelry, sweetheart. Even when you are banished to your father's house. Keshetachzeri, when you come back to me, lo yalecha chadashim, the jewelry shouldn't be new. So what's the jewelry? The mitzvot. So Sifri says the reason we continue to do mitzvot in Chutz La'aretz is only we shouldn't forget how to do them when what? We come back. V'chein omer Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu says, Hatzivi loch tziyunim. Continue to distinguish yourself in mitzvot. Elo mitzvot Yisrael mitzvunabam. V'hinei, see the next paragraph, Rivka? V'hinei? Yes. Hinei means wow. Hakosov sh'omar, v'valta mehera, you will be lost. Sometimes devarei ele, even when you're in Chutz La'aretz, you have to continue to what? To mitzvot. Eino muchayev begolut, ela b'chayvas haguf, ketfilin and mezuzah. Tefillin and mezuzah. It's not chayvas hakarka. Tefillin and mezuzah is what? Chayvas haguf. Upersha behen, that even mitzvahs like tefillin and mezuzah, why do you put them on in Lakewood? Kedei, Rivka. Kedei, shlayil chadashim aleinu, they shouldn't appear new, keshanach zel Eretz. So even mitzvahs that are chayvas haguf, like putting on tefillin and mezuzah, you continue to do them in chutz la'aretz only, Ruvain, only what? Practice. This is the Ramban quoting the Sifri. They were both Haredi. Sifri was Haredi, the Ramban was Haredi. Ki ikar kol mitzvot. The essence of all mitzvahs, even tefillin, is what? Those that live be'eretz Hashem. Lefikach amru b'sifri. You have that, Rabbi Aaron? V'rishtam osav yishaftem bo. You shall possess and live in the land of Israel. Ushmartem lasot.
He states that as the mitzvah.
Right? So that he quotes that as a mitzvah. V'yarashta otam, v'yishafta, you shall drive out the enemy, v'yishafta ba'artzam, and live in their land. Yeshivat Eretz Yisrael, you have that underlined. Yeshivat Eretz Yisrael, shkula, keneget kol ha-mitzvah shebetorah. The mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael is equal in value like all the other mitzvahs in the Torah. Who says that? The Sifri on Devarim 12. So you might think this is only when the temple stood. Says the Pischei Tshuva. You know what Pischei Tshuva was? He was a superstar Haredi posek about 200 years ago. In Even Ezer, Pischei Tshuva, chapter 75, he says, Af bisman hazeh. On this Sifri that the Ramban quotes, that the mitzvah of living in Israel is equal in value to all the mitzvahs of the Torah, Af bisman hazeh. And this is the Pischei Tshuva who everybody accepts, except this one they seem to forget. It's written very small. In the Even Ezer, Siman Ayin Hey, he says that this mitzvah of living in Israel is more important than all the other mitzvahs, afilu bisman hazeh. And he wrote this about 250 years ago, okay? So, why is it the most important mitzvah? Because only in Israel can we have a direct relationship with God. All the other countries, Daniel chapter 10 says that what? God put under the auspices of heavenly ministers or governors. Paras, Yavan, Daniel 10. The only country that doesn't have a heavenly minister in charge of it is Israel. So the only country you can have a direct relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is what, Chava? Therefore it has to be the most important mitzvah. Because doing mitzvahs of chutz la'aretz, even though you're doing it for God, there's an intermediary there. So it looks like avodah zarah, even though you don't mean the intermediary, but he's there. Hello, he's there. That's pretty amazing.
Question.
Yes, yeah.
How do we know if there's a SAR that is supervising all the other places except for...
Daniel 10 tells us that.
How do we know that when we
Yeah.
pray to Hashem, that we're not empowering that SAR?
No, but
Only if you live there.
Empowering the SAR.
it looks like avodah zarah because he's in charge. So you're davening to Hashem, but who's in charge of that country? There's a malach there. So it looks like avodah zarah.
Are we empowering...
God knows.
Question.
But it looks like you're davening to him.
I know, but are we empowering...
There's an intermediary there.
Would that be a source of anti-Semitism?
Therefore, living in Israel is the greatest mitzvah, because only here you can have a direct relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Evelyn, here it's a local call. Unlike Manhattan Beach, it's a long-distance call. Now, it gets further than that. We'll ask questions. We have plenty. Just when we finish the sources, Ira. Now, the Rambam says, so I'm telling you, says Ramban, that Israel is the only country that doesn't have what? A sar. Right? Says the Ramban, Va'al toshev olai mi posuk mi choyel sarchem. You see, there's a but there with a question mark. See that 3/4 down on page 3? Nechama, you have that? But, there's a but there. See but, question mark, no? Va'al toshev olai mi posuk mi choyel sarchem. You hear this? Daniel 10 says there's a pasuk, Michael, the archangel Michael, Sarchem is your minister. So why did I just tell you that Israel ain't got no minister when Daniel 10 says that Michael, the angel Michael, is our minister, even in Israel? So doesn't that contradict what I said? No. Ki hu sar misharet levakesh rachamim al Yisrael. Loi sar malchut memshala. No. The other countries have a heavenly minister that's moshel on them, governs and rules them. They're robots, but God put them in charge of the countries to govern and rule. Michael is not our minister, he's misharet. He works for us. He's our Perry Mason.
He's a lawyer.
Alan Dershowitz, he works for us. The other angels, they're in charge of the countries. Michael Sarchem, he's Sar Misharet Levakesh Racham al Yisrael. He works for us. Lo Sar Malchut Memshala, like the other angels. You hear this? So Michael, we're in charge of him. We pay his wages. Who pays Perry Mason? He works for us, Rivka. Michael Sarchem. You hear this? So therefore, living in Israel is the greatest of all the mitzvot. Wow. So let me ask you a question. So living in Israel is the greatest mitzvah. The Ramban counts it as a mitzvah. So how come there is no berchet ha-mitzvah Yishuv Eretz Yisrael? According to Nachmanides, Ruvain, it's one of the Taryag mitzvot. When you walk into a sukkah, what bracha do you make? Leishe basukkah. So every morning you wake up, you should make the bracha. Leishe be'eretz Yisrael. How come there is no berchat ha-mitzvah on living in Eretz Yisrael? That's a $64 kasha, Nechama. We just said that living in Israel is the greatest mitzvah. When you walk into a sukkah, you make a bracha. So when you walk into the Israel, every morning you wake up, Masha, you should make a bracha. Leishe be'eretz Yisrael.
I make another bracha.
Huh? So what's the answer? The answer is you do. You look in Devarim Perik Ches. It says ve'yachalta ve'savata uvarachta. You don't have it on your sheets, but Devarim Perik Ches says ve'yachalta ve'savata uvarachta es Hashem Elohecha al Eretz HaTova. Every time you do Birchat HaMazon, Lillian, it's a twofer. You didn't know that. It's a twofer. Whenever you bench, you're also doing the mitzvah of what? Of Birchat HaMitzvah al Eretz Yisrael. Because one second, the bracha, Deuteronomy 8 says, V'yachalta, v'savata uvarachta, Hashem Elohecha, al Eretz HaTova, asher nosan lach. Baruch ato Hashem, al Eretz v'al. So every time you bench, you have to have in mind, Masha, you're doing a twofer. You're benching, and you're also doing the Berchat HaMitzvah of what? Of living in Eretz Yisrael. So much so, Rabbi Yaakov, I wouldn't repeat this unless I heard this from Rabbi Yaakov Peretz, a Mukubal in the old city. I wouldn't repeat it unless I heard it from him. So much so that anyone who benches in Borough Park, Ulai zeh bracha lavatala. That's what he said. Rav Yaakov Peretz Shlita, he is a Mukubal in the old city. He says, Ulai, if you bench in Lakewood, Ulai zeh bracha lavatala. How can you say ala Eretz v'ala in Williamsburg? You okay?
Well, you can make another bracha. You can say hamotzi lechem yichutz la'aretz.
Hamotzi no. So the Vilna Gaon makes a point. The Vilna Gaon knew Hebrew. The bracha should be hamotzi lechem min ha'adama. Why do you say hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz? It should say min ha'adama, says the Vilna Gaon, because it's on this pasuk. On this pasuk. Al Eretz, every time you make hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz, says Vilna Gaon, Evelyn, you're making the Berchat HaMitzvahs. How do you say it in Borough Park? You say hamotzi lechem min ha'adama. Shmutz l'Eretz. So the Vilna Gaon says, Moshe Lechem min haaretz. That's the bracha al haaretz atova. So how do you make it in Shmutz La'aretz? But Masha, some people say, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up. Yes? Now, I want to finish. I have time for questions. Yecheskel Lamed Vav. I don't know if you have it on your sheet. You have it? The bottom of sheet number 3, you have it or not? Yecheskel Lamed Vav says, Vayavohu el hagoyim asher bo'u sham. The Yidden came to the Goyim asher bo'u sham vayechalalu Hashem Kodshi. You desecrated my holy name. The very fact that Yidden live where? Among the Goyim is a desecration of God's name. Why? Be'emor lahem. The Goyim say to their Yiddish neighbors, Am Hashem eleh, ume'artza yotzu. What are you doing here? You have such a wonderful country. Israel, the leader in medicine and military, high-tech, low-tech, smartphone, dumb phones, the leader in everything. Am Hashem eleh. You're the people of God. Why are you living amongst the Goyim? So Yecheskel 36, God says the very fact that Yidden live among Goyim is a gross what? Chil Hashem. Right? We're the leader in high-tech, low-tech, everything. Science, medicine. Jimmy Carter, his cancer has been cured. He uses a drug created by a Jewish doctor in Torah Code. Jimmy Carter, he boycotts, but that drug he doesn't boycott. Right? Jimmy Carter, Abraham, he's using a medicine that cured him of cancer by Yiddish doctor from Torah Code. So Jimmy, you're a hypocrite. You're BDS, Jimmy. You shouldn't take the medicine from a Yiddish doctor. Why don't you drop dead, Jimmy? No. But you see that? Yes. So the very fact, right? The very fact that you live among Goyim, Vayechalu Hashem Kodshi, they desecrated by my holy name, Be'emor lahem, when the Goyim say to the Yidden, Am Hashem eleh, aren't you the people of God? So what are you doing here? That's a Chil Hashem. With all the excuses, those are, remember Dragnet, those are the facts. Remember Dragnet, Ira? Just the facts. Yes? 1 second, what?
Why so many Jewish people live in New York?
Friday.
Why New York? I don't know. They like the blintzes there. The blintzes. There's good cheese blintzes there. I don't know. Ratners. I don't know. Still there.
Rabbi,
Yeah?
presumably,
Yes.
I'm making a guess. Presumably, your Rosh Yeshiva at Torah Vadas,
Right.
knew this Rambam, he knew the
I don't know.
Ramban, he knew Daniel.
You're right. So you have,
Rav
yeah.
Soloveitchik probably knew it too.
Okay.
Rav Moshe Feinstein.
Okay. Ira, you forced me into it, Ira.
Okay, so,
Rav Soloveitchik, the Great Sadak. Let me answer you.
okay.
There's a book that came out with Rav Soloveitchik's letters. It's been translated into English. After the 6-Day War, Ira, a teacher, a lady teacher from Petach Tikva, wrote a letter to Rav Soloveitchik right after the 6-Day War. You could read a Bible book. It's called The Rav's Letters. You go to Pomerantz or you go to Manny's bookstore. It's called a collection of the Rav's letters translated into English. So after the 6-Day War, a teacher from Petach Tikva wrote a letter to Rav Soloveitchik. Great Rav, you see all the great miracles. How can you remain in Shmutz La'aretz? So he could have said, I'm the Gadol Hador. What do you...
They need me.
1 minute, you read his answer, you'll tear up. I did. So this anonymous school teacher from Petach Tikva, Shoshana, wrote a letter to the Gadol Hador. Rebbe, how could you remain in Shmutz La'aretz after the Nissim? He starts off the letter, Rivka, Es chatoai ani maskir hayom. He starts off this great tzaddik to this anonymous school teacher. He says, Es chatoai ani maskir hayom. What does that mean? That's a quote from the Sar HaMashkim. My sin I mentioned today. My dear lady, he says, you're right. I was planning to make Aliyah. My wife got sick. She got very sick and she contracted cancer. And I struggled with her, and with her treatments, I became zerbrochen, he says. He became broken, physically and spiritually. And then when she died, I just was so broken up. You know, Evelyn, I just didn't have the strength to go through with the Aliyah. God will have to forgive me. But I was planning to make Aliyah. She got sick in 65. Yiddish. And all the treatments and all, he became so broken, he says, and so depressed, this great Sadak, because, you know, his wife, he loved her so much, that with the treatments he couldn't leave, because she had treatments there in Sloan Kettering. You got to read the letter. And then after she died, I became ois mensch, he says. Ois mensch. My better half died, and God will have to forgive me, but I did plan to make Aliyah before she got sick. This is the great Rav Soloveitchik writing. You can buy the book, Masha. Go to Manny's bookstore, a Pomerantz collection. This great Sadak, Es Chata'ai Ani Maskir Hayom. Avram, it's a quote from the Sarah Mashkim. I have to mention, God will have to forgive me. Yes, Shoshana? I answer your question because living here is God's palace. So when you do a sin here, it's much worse. When you do a sin here, you ask why there's so much sorrows here. The Ramban says, living in Israel, you're living in the king's palace. So doing a sin here is much more severe. Because the rest of the world, maybe that's the king's garage. But living here, so therefore when you live here, there's an awesome responsibility. That's the answer. Sins are punished much more. The Ramban says, why was Sodom and Amorah nuked? Rabbi Aaron, they weren't worse than Las Vegas, says the Ramban. They're not worse than the 5 towns of Las Vegas. So the Ramban says that Sodom and Amorah were destroyed because they committed the sins in Israel. If they were in Arizona, nothing would happen to them. But doing an Aveira here, says Nachmanides, is much worse because you're mamish in the king's throne room. Wow. So that answers your question, Shana. So a sin here, God is more...
Why are there so many carbonas in that bus accident last year? They're carbonas, they were innocent to children. Don't tell me they did.
I didn't say they. I'm just saying living here is fraught with danger. Yes?
With your permission, may I answer?
Please, Rabbi Yaakov, go ahead.
Gemara and Bracha said that 3 things are achieved with great
Yisurin.
Right?
Yisurin.
One of them is Eretz Israel.
Right. But the question is why? Does God need our pain?
Go to Gemara and Brachas.
I know. Brachas, page 8, Rashbi says it. The Rashbi.
Yeah, if it was easy to live here, everybody would run. The idea is to overcome the Yitzhak and come despite the difficulties.
But
that's the reward for coming here.
Okay.
If everybody came here and made a good living,
right,
free housing and everything, then there would be no problem.
According to the pain is the gain. According to the pain, but doesn't answer why individual people suffer. It doesn't answer that.
Why do you say it's the greatest mitzvah? Why don't you say it's just a great mitzvah?
Because all the other mitzvahs depend on it. Because only here could you have a direct relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Only here. Only here.
Yeah, but it's equivalent.
That's why.
There are several other mitzvahs that say it's equivalent to Kol HaTorah Kula.
Yeah, but Yishuv Etzrael is because, right, because you do a mitzvah somewhere else, you're only practicing, right? Even putting on tefillin in the Chutz La'aretz, it says the Sifri, you're only practicing. You want to pitch in the big leagues or you want to remain in the minor leagues? Right? So doing mitzvahs of Chutz La'aretz is like you're practicing in the minor leagues. If you want to graduate to the major leagues, you have to come here. Shoshana, to your question, why the innocent have to suffer? You ever read Rabbi Yazdi's sheets? Rabbi Yazdi, he puts out the Torah sheets. So this Shabbos, he dealt with that. Rabbi Yazdi is a great Chacham, Mekubal, and he puts out a Torah. He dealt with this, the bus accident. Okay, these 6 holy people who were killed. So he writes that one person was very close bocher was close with the other bocher who was killed. They were chavrusas together. And he cried terrible at the funeral that his beloved chavrusa was killed. That night, who came to him in a dream? He says, don't cry for me. I'm in a good place. We are karbonos of the tzibor. We are like Nadav v'Avihu. He came to him in a dream. Yiddish Evelyn. Don't cry for me, he says. I'm in a great place. Kodesh Baruch Hu, there's so much tzoros going on. There's so much lashon hara. There's so much sinat chinam among Haredi Jews. One rabbi talks against Shreklach. Rabbi talks against rabbi. You know what's going on? This rabbi against that rabbi. Lashon hara of rabbis against rabbis. There's such terrible sinas chinam that God took us to be korban tzibur like Nadav v'Avihu. So this is what this guy in a dream came to him, and he told this to his chavrusa, and he's close with Rabbi Yazdi. And in this week's Torah Sheet, Rabbi Yazdi wrote this. You can pick it up in the shul. We don't know God's cheshbonot, right? But sometimes tzaddikim are volunteer or don't volunteer to what? Like Nadav v'Avihu. Why did they die? Nadav v'Avihu, right?
They were drunk.
What? B'kroi v'ya Kadesh. What does that mean? B'kroi v'ya Kadesh. Those that are close to me. But anyway, these are the sources. Thank God that we have the schus nechama to live in Eretz Israel. So when we do a mitzvah, we're not practicing. We're doing it for keep. We should appreciate that every step we take in the mitzvah. Rav Bulman, Zecher Tzadik Avrocha, told me, Rosh Hashiva in Or Sameach, Zecher Tzadik told me when he first came to Israel, he took 4 steps and he stopped. He said, mitzvah, another 4 steps, Nacha mitzvah, another 4 steps, Nacha mitzvah. Because the Rambam, the Rav Bulman, Zecher Tzadik Avrocha, he told me this. Yiddish, every 4 steps, he stopped and he screamed, mitzvah, nacha mitzvah. He stopped doing it because people looked at him funny. He said, why did I stop doing it? I'm following the right. Every 4 steps you take, nacha mitzvah, nacha mitzvah. You have to tell the joggers, mitzvah, nacha mitzvah. The joggers, all right. Mitzvah is trichas kavana. Mitzvah is trichas kavana.
Are there sources that you did not quote that disagree with the sources that you did?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. Anybody can disagree with that. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Well, I don't think anybody disagrees.
You probably know about it. You don't want to say it.
I don't. Everybody agree. I don't know who can disagree. The Pischei Tshuva, Mickey. The Pischei Tshuva, Even Ezra, 75. They lived 250 years ago. He's accepted by all poskim, Haredi, Misnagdim, and he says living in Israel is the greatest mitzvah af bezman hazeh. So how can you ignore that? I don't know. Pischei Tshuva in the Shulchan Aruch. Some say it's too small. Take out a magnifying glass and read the Pischei Tshuva. That's what. Nobody can argue with that. Yes.
There's a story told about Rabbi Eliyahu Kiko there from Seder.
Right.
He was walking down Rechov.
Nachon.
With a distinguished Haredi visitor from Putzlar.
Nachon.
In the summer.
Nachon.
You know, in the summer, many of the women.
Right. We're not dressed properly. I know the story.
Yes. And so this Haredi visitor was very shocked.
Right.
And Rav Kitov said, you know, they are better than you because they are living here. Every step they take
is a mitzvah. That's right. That's right.
And you're living elsewhere.
You know the story, Mickey. I just want to elaborate on the story. You heard the great Sadak of Eliyahu Kitov. He wrote the Seif, Eliyahu Kitov. So he had a Haredi rabbi come visit him from Borough Park. You want to sit down, please? Or they're walking down Rehov Yafa in the summer, and certain ladies are not dressed properly. So the Hasidic Rebbe says to the Rabbi Kitov, "Feh, azoi geit man ungeteen." He says, "What's the matter with you? What are you looking? Nacha mitzvah, who tells you to look? Every step you take is nacha mitzvah. What do you want to see here?" He says, Kalev ben Yefuna and Yeshua ben Nun were not lying, and the Meraglim were not lying either. How could they both be right? What are you looking at, says the Great Sadak? The Meraglim were not lying. They saw the glass as what? Half empty. And Kalev and Yeshua saw the same glass as what? Half full. In Eretz Israel, you're supposed to accent the positive and not focus on the negative. What are you looking at? Put your eyeballs back in the socket. Noch a mitzvah, noch a mitzvah. Every step you take is a mitzvah. Why are you looking at the negative?
Because they are more negative.
Look at the positive. It doesn't matter. In Eretz Israel, you're only supposed to focus on the positive. The Meraglim were not lying, and Kalev was not lying. It depends what you want to see. Thank you very much. Shalom. Shalom.